I'm here with Tom and he is converting a nightclub into a 17-bed HMO. He's going to show us around, tell us all about the project and tell us about his journey into property investment. So stay tuned for that. Right, Tom, thank you so much for having me over at this incredible project that you got going on. The nightclub into a 17-bed HMO. It's insane, especially at the age of 24. If you want to tell me a little bit more about how you found it, the project itself, all the numbers and stuff like that, that would be great.
Sure. So this project was actually brought to us by my architect. So we'd done a project with him in 2020. It was a commercial conversion to 4 flats. I let him know that we were looking for more bigger, better projects, and he brought us this. We viewed it off market, direct to vendor. Yeah, so we went back and forth with the vendor, finally reached a deal, and we purchased it for £160,000. So we purchased it for £160,000. We've done initial feasibility estimates, and we think it should be between 500 and 550, all in with refurbishment and associated costs and things like that. And we're looking at a GDV of conservatively around £1 million.
Conservatively? Yeah. All right, unconservatively, what do you think it'll be?
Probably in the range of 1.1 to 1.2.
Mate, that's class. That's so good. So because it's a 17-bed HMO conversion, how long do you think it'll take for you to convert it all the way to the end product?
So at the moment we're in planning. Now that's usually an 8-week process, but because of this, the scheme and the size and where it is, we believe we're going to get some pushback with that. So it'll probably end up going to committee, which will drag that process on quite a bit longer. But in terms of build phase, I reckon we could probably do it between 8 and 10 months. If we push on with it, probably more around 12 months, I reckon.
I thought you were going to say weeks.
No, never.
So when you first had this project brought to you, what was that feeling like? What made you go, I'm going to go for it rather than, bottle it and just be like, that's too big of a project for me? What got you over the line?
I think, my background's in quantity surveying, and so I used to work with big numbers quite a lot, and I think maybe that is one of the reasons why bigger numbers don't scare me as much. Yeah, so when we first walked around it, I knew with the location and the size that we'd be able to make something out of it, and especially at £160,000, there was, if planning didn't get accepted as a HMO, I knew there was scope for flats. So that was always the backup options, and still is if planning gets denied. But
yeah, so when it comes to a project this size, I was going to ask, how do you even come up with an exit strategy on this side, on this side of a property, right? So your exit strategy is putting in multiple flats instead of HMOs.
Yeah, so primarily it's the 17-bed HMO, but we have had drawings drawn, and we can get 5 2-bed flats in it. So we do know that failing HMO, we can do the 5 flats, and it still works.
So obviously it's going to be a 17-bed HMO. Now, what are the bedrooms going to consist of? Is it going to be double en suites, studios, double occupancy? What kind of thing are you looking for?
So of the 17 rooms, 13 are going to be studio-style rooms with kitchenettes and en suites, and the remaining 4 will be double en suite rooms. The reason we do studio-style rooms is because it provides more space for the tenants. They get their own private kitchen, which means they're not sharing with other tenants, which they prefer, and it also means from an investment perspective that we can charge a higher rent, which increases the GDV at the end of the project. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, when we do our HMO conversions, we want to maximize the amount of studios that we can get, right? Because like you said, the NJDV is big, and we also want the studios to be great for our tenants, because when it comes to a double ensuite room, they're still good, but having your own kitchenette, having your own space after, say, a long work day or a long uni day, that'd be really good, right? And they're also recession proof. So let's say there's a big recession and people have to downsize from apartments, they're going to go down to these studio rooms, right? So this place, when you have studios and other HMO conversions as well, like our projects, they're going to essentially be recession proof, which is so important from an investment perspective as well.
Exactly, and I think the model we're trying to achieve with this one is we go for really quite high quality rooms. How I've kind of looked at it is that for a tenant, say, leaving home at maybe 18, 19, 20, they can just pack their bags, move straight in. They've not got to sort out bills, Wi-Fi, anything like that. All their furniture's there, and they're just straight in. They're not buying sofas, and they've not got that upfront cost that you would associate with moving house.
So you mentioned 18, 19, 20-year-olds, which is more student orientated, right? Sometimes working professional. When it comes to this project especially, what sort of tenant type are you looking for? Is it student, working professional, mixed? What kind of thing are you looking for?
In this area, predominantly, it's going to be young working professionals. There is a local college that specialises in sort of trades, hairdressing, things like that for the sort of 18 to 21 year olds. So we will be targeting them as well, but yeah, predominantly it's working professionals.
Now you're only 24 years old and you're doing projects like this, right? So how are you funding these sort of projects?
So for this particular project, we used angel finance. Now, angel finance is essentially other people's money. We take it on an investment basis over a 12-month period for a fixed return.
So essentially you're offering them like a win-win scenario, right? Where you keep the project at the end of it and you get it fully funded, and also they get a return on their money. And that's kind of my favorite thing about angel investing, right? You get to have people's money working for them and they get interest off it, and what they can do with that interest is say pay their mortgage, pay some debt, go on holiday, get some presents, stuff like that, whilst you keep the project at the end of it. It's a great agreement that you can have if you're struggling to find funds to fund your own project. So using other people's money is definitely a faster way to scale your portfolio, and this is a great example of the speed of how fast you can scale your portfolio, right?
So yeah, 100%. I mean, at the beginning, I was quite nervous about using other people's money, but now to be able to scale and do projects like this, you do need to expand your horizons and go out there and sort of leverage that. If you're happy doing one a year, then that's absolutely fine to use your own money. But if you want to start expanding and scaling and doing multiple projects, you will need to, eventually you're going to run out of money, right? Buying property is an expensive hobby, or it's an expensive business, right? So you're going to always need more cash, and we find the best way to do that is by raising private finance.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I've learned, especially when it comes to angel financing, is you're presenting the opportunity to them. Like I said earlier, they can pay off the mortgage, pay off debt and stuff like that, whilst you are able to scale your portfolio quicker. It is genuinely a win-win. And you can see this, you're 24 years old and you're doing a 17-bed HMO conversion from a nightclub, and just down the road you got a 7-bed conversion. Yep. So without angel financing, yeah, you'd still be a property investor, but you may not be at this scale at such a young age. So I definitely think it's one of the best ways to scale your portfolio, a lot faster than the traditional way of just using your own cash and rinse and repeat in that way.
Definitely. I think the biggest sort of turning point for me was I was quite nervous and maybe reluctant to ask people for money, right? Because you think, who's going to lend me 10 grand or who's going to lend me 50 grand? But I think the way you've got to switch it, like you touched on earlier, with people be able to pay off their mortgages or go on holiday, it's a win-win. So you are doing them a favour. They are earning money on their investment, and you get to do projects like this.
Okay, now that we've spoken about the project and you've told us all about the background of it, let's go around the project and see what's really in store for it.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's kick it off with room number 1. What is this room going to be?
So currently we're stood in what is a garage. This will be 2 studios, so we're going to chop and change it around, put some stud walls up, and create 2 14 square metre studios and about 3 square metre en suites in here.
So when it comes to the studios, is the minimum standard 13? Is it 14? Because when it comes to creating studios and double en suites, for example, there's like standards, right?
Yeah.
So what is the standards in this area?
So for this council, for minimum studio sizes, it's 14 square metres. But then you've also got to consider, you've got to add your en suites on top of that. So usually, if we look at an area and we think, right, can we get a studio in there? It needs to be roughly around 16.5 square metres to account for the ensuite and the studio.
Okay, if you can you show me where the bed's going to be, the hallway's going to be, the bathrooms and stuff like that, so that people can really visualize what's going to happen in this space?
Sure. So we're currently stood in bedroom 4. We're going to have a bed along this wall here, corridor in between where that opening is and this room, and then bedroom 2 through that way. So we're also going to knock down the wall to the right of us here, and there's going to be 2 more studio rooms in there. And there's also going to be an ensuite in this corner here.
Okay, into the next room. This room is a beast. What are your plans with this room here?
So this will become the communal kitchen and dining area for the tenants. Behind us, this was actually a cafe that connects to this building, so we boarded that up and we will be bricking that up once we start the development. But yeah, this area here we'll have kitchens along here, maybe a pool table I'm considering, and some nice sofa and seating areas really.
When it comes to a project of this size, right, I know when they have like a standard, say 6-bed conversion, you have say 1 communal kitchen and 1 dining area, right, and they're all in 1 room. When it comes to a project this size, what kind of standards do you have to fit? Is it double the amount of kitchen space and double the amount of dining space, for example? What sort of standards have to be met here?
It all depends on the number of occupants. Because this HMO, we're doing 13 studio style rooms, they've got their own kitchenette within that room, so therefore they don't count towards the space requirements. So the 4 people we do have that will have no kitchenettes, that will have to use this space to do the cooking and things like that. That's what goes into the minimum requirements. Now, I believe the minimum requirements for those 4, I think it's around 10 to 15 square meters. Now, this area will be 25, 26.
Yeah.
So we are giving them, do you know what I mean, more than required. I think that makes it more desirable for tenants, really.
Mate, I absolutely love the sound of that, and the pool table especially, because I've not seen a HMO that has a pool table in it, so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that. Okay, we finally made it to one of my favourite spots of this project, because look at the space, it is absolutely enormous, and I would love to know what your plans is for this space especially.
Sure. So where we're stood now is actually going to be, there's going to be an extension out here, and this will be a bedroom. So this will be a studio style bedroom again with the kitchenette and en suites. Down here, this is actually going to be a courtyard for the tenants. So we're going to put a doorway in down there and some steps leading to out here. So maybe put some benches and things like that for them to sit down. It's a bit enclosed, so they might not get the sun, but at least it's something for them to come outside and...
Mate, I absolutely love the sound of that, especially how there's going to be a courtyard down there, right? So when it comes to that space especially, are you going to have a landscaper do it, or is your builder doing that? What's your plans for down there?
So yeah, when it comes to this area, I'm not the most creative person in the world, so we probably will be getting a landscaper involved, sort of jazz the area up, give me some ideas of what we want to do, and make it somewhere that tenants want to spend some time.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think like when you have a project of this scale especially, you got to outsource as much as you can, right?
Yeah, it's definitely important to outsource things like the design, because that's the first thing tenants see, right, when they're scrolling on Rightmove. That's what stands out to you. So one, it attracts tenants to your property, but then it means they stay longer because they enjoy the space they're in.
Okay, we're upstairs now, and this is an even bigger space. I swear it just keeps getting bigger and bigger as we go along. So if you could tell me about what this space is going to be like, that would be great as well.
So this originally was the dance floor. Behind us there, it was the DJ booth actually. So they used to climb up there and do all the DJing. But this will become 3 studio rooms. So where the camera is now, that's going to be a room here. We share these windows here. Behind us, there'll be a corridor coming through. With another studio over here and a studio there as well.
I still can't get over the fact that this used to be a nightclub, right? And the fact that that's the bar there and the DJ was up there. I mean, imagining like all the people in here like dancing away back in what, the 80s and 70s would have been nuts, right? So obviously it's been abandoned for a long time. How long was it abandoned for?
So we don't know exactly, but we think sort of early 90s, so approximately about 30, 35 years. So what happened was, this was actually passed down through 3 generations. From speaking to the owner, we found this out. His grandpa actually owned it back in the day. We've actually had a heritage assessment done for planning purposes, and that basically revealed a lot of the history about the building. And I think looking when we looked at it last, it was built in the early 1800s. And it was actually originally some stables for the pub next door.
Right.
Yeah. And there's a famous Duke of, I don't know what it is, maybe Duke of someone from around here that used to come and hold like vegetable shows, you know, when they grow vegetables, and that's where they used to hold it. So they used to stay in here. That was what we
So it
found out.
started off as like a stables.
Started off as a stables,
and it became a nightclub.
and then somehow it became a nightclub. It had various uses throughout that time, and then, like I say, it was passed down from generation to generation until the guy we bought it off wanted to retire, ended up selling it to us.
So the guy you bought it off, he was the last person to inherit, like it's still in that same family, and then it's just getting passed on to you.
Yeah, so it was his dad, I think, that ran it as the club,
Right.
and then when he inherited it, obviously just left it as it is, and it's just slowly deteriorated over those 30 years.
Okay, now we're in the biggest room of the whole nightclub. If you could tell me what you're going to do in here, how you're going to do it, what is staying, what is going, including that car. If you could tell me all of that, that would be great.
So eventually this room will become 2 studios and an ensuite room. So we're going to have a studio in the corner over here. Where we are stood now, this will be another studio and a bedroom over to my right. As you can see, it is a bit of a mess in here. We are taking off this roof here. We're taking off all the roofs in this building actually, replacing them all. These joists, I quite like the joists, and I mean these might have to come out, but I kind of want to incorporate them into the room, so I might take the ceiling down, leave them in as like a feature really. But in terms of the car, I mean, if anyone wants it, you're more than welcome to have it, because I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But
yeah, I mean, it's half a car.
Yeah, it's not a full car, so you can have it half price.
Have it half price. I mean, there's evidently a lot of character in this place, and you say that you want to keep some of it is a great idea, I think, anyway. So you want to keep as much of the original features as possible, right? It definitely adds to the character of the whole project, right?
100%. I think when you take in old buildings like this, obviously our main goal is to modernise them and make them a place livable for a start. But where you can retain some of these old nice features, I think it's really important to do so.
Okay, we're into the last section of the nightclub. If you could tell me what's going on in here, that would be great as well.
Sure, so we're currently stood what will be a corridor through here, with a bedroom behind us to utilise those windows there. A studio in that corner over there, that wall you see behind you is going to get knocked down, and this whole area there will be a studio. And then another bedroom here, sort of where the camera is, to utilise that window behind us.
Now looking around here, are you even keeping the floors? Like, how far back are you doing this? Are you keeping the walls? Like, what are you keeping?
I think where we can, we'll retain some of the walls, but things like the floor, I mean, you can't see on camera here, but there's a massive gaping hole in that corner. So the floors will be replaced. A lot of these beams will need to be replaced because if you can see in that corner, they're quite rotten. So they'll have to come down. The joists in the ceiling, I think they look quite good. I mean, we are replacing the roof covering, but until we get up there, we don't know about the structure. So that might be something we'll have to deal with down the line. But that's why we do have contingency costs built into these type of projects, because of these unforeseen.
So you mentioned contingency there. What sort of contingency do you look for? Is it 5%, 10%? What sort of thing do you plan for?
So it all depends on the project, really. For something of this size that we've not done before to this level, we've looked to sort of put in 10 to 15. Whereas for a standard 6-bed conversion, we're normally looking for around 5%, just because we're quite familiar with how much that's going to cost us to convert.
Yeah, that's what we do as well, about 5 to 10%. Like you said, if it's a new area or a new build team, we go for about 10%. But if we've done the area many times before with the same build team, 5% is more than enough.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, mate.
You're only 24, right? And you've already had an incredible journey in property investment. If you could tell us how you started off and how you got to where you are today, that would be amazing.
My background's actually in quantity surveying. I did a degree apprenticeship at Nottingham Trent University. So I did that for 5 years, doing my degree part-time and working for the rest of the week. And I'd always wanted to get into property. I was always interested in it, YouTube videos, things like that, looking online. Basically, where I got my funds from was I'd saved up a bit of money by working, and I invested it into crypto, and managed to get quite a bit of cash from that bull run. Sold a lot of that. So at the time I was looking into property, and I was looking to buy to let. I wanted a normal terraced house buy to let, and it was actually my dad who saw this property for sale. It was an old office block. It was during COVID when there was lockdowns, and I think that obviously they'd gone bust or they'd shut down, and this became vacant. My dad saw it and said, "Why don't you have a go at that?" And the rest is history, really. We bought that and converted it into 4 flats. Didn't do it very well, used a builder on a day rate for about 13, 15 weeks too long, but we got there in the end, and the project did work.
So you've had an incredible career so far, from this massive nightclub conversion to that 7-bed down the road. What advice would you give yourself if you're at the start of your journey that you wish you had then?
So I think the number one piece of advice I'd say is get educated. And by educated, I mean speak to people that are really in there doing exactly what you want to do, and build that relationship with them. I think the more that you can find people it doesn't have to be property, anywhere that you want to be, look for someone that's sort of 3 to 5 years ahead of you, and mirror, and only if they're successful, mirror exactly what they're doing and how they got there. I think I spent a lot of my early years online on YouTube and things like that, and it definitely helped, and it's definitely taken that plunge that you need to do. But I think you'll have more confidence to do that if you have someone by your side that has done it, that will, in a sense, mentor you along the way. Which leads me to the second piece, which is, like I said before, but it's putting yourself out there and making sure that people know what you're doing and telling people what you're doing, because no one's ever going to know what you're in if you don't tell anyone, right? So it's going to networking events and introducing yourself to people in your local community that are doing the same thing as you. It can only do one thing, and that's open doors for you. The more people you know, the more connections you make, the more opportunities come your way.
Yeah, I definitely agree, mate. I mean, if you're sitting around at home just waiting for things to come to you, it's not going to happen because you're not telling anyone what it is that you do, right? So my biggest bit of advice is just like what he said, go to these networking events, ask all of these people what it is they've done to get to where they are, just like I am with Tom and other people on my channel, and learn from their mistakes, learn from what things they've done right, what they've done wrong, and implement that into your journey. Because if they tell you about 5 or 6 years worth of mistakes that could cost you, say, tens of thousands of pounds if you made them, then you've essentially just saved yourself all of that time and money just over a simple cup of coffee. So I definitely agree with Tom when he says put yourself out there and work with other investors that are doing what you want to do, because believe me, it will catapult your career and minimize all the risk. As we know, there are countless property strategies out there. What led you to choose HMOs?
So I'd say the number one thing for me was the cash flow that HMOs produce. I mean, I looked at a lot of the different strategies when I was first starting out, and I was really focused on buy-to-let, but the more I looked into it, there just wasn't the margins there. And especially with the recent interest rate rises, that's just squeezed those margins even more. So obviously HMOs, you're renting out multiple units within one building. So first of all, that covers you if you've got some voids in different rooms. Even if you've got a couple voids in some of the rooms, you know that you've got the income coming in from the other rooms to cover your bills and your mortgages. Unlike buy-to-lets, if your tenant leaves, then you've got no income coming in. What I also like about HMOs is because we increase the value of them so much by buying sort of semi-detached terraced houses and then getting commercial valuations based on the income it's now producing from the different rooms, we can increase the value so much to the point where we're pulling out most of, if not all of our money from the initial investment. So when you look at it on a capital employed basis, the returns are massive, sometimes 70, 80, 100% of your money back in the first year.
If you had only 10 grand left to your name, how would you invest it?
So I think the main thing for me would be getting educated. I spent a lot of my early years reluctant to spend any money. I was just doing YouTube videos, online books, things like that. But it wasn't until I paid for a mentorship that I've really seen my growth skyrocket. And not only that, the confidence and also the connections it brings as well. Sometimes you're paying for that person, but you're also paying for who they know and what they can get you. And I think that's really important if you want to look to scale, especially in property.
As we know, being an entrepreneur or a property investor, there's a lot of tough times. There's a lot of days where you're like, fuck this, I'm giving up, man. I can't do it anymore. And those days can turn into weeks, can turn into months. What helps you get through those times where you're like, I want to give up, but something made you not give up? What was that? Sure,
I think it's the overall vision and the goal I have for myself. I think I know where I want to be in, say, 5-10 years time, and I know how to get there, right? And it is just about setting those goals and sticking to it. And in the mornings I wake up and I think, oh, I'm tired today, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. I think to myself, sort of, what would the person that I want to be doing right now? The guy that I want to be in 5-10 years time, would he be sat in bed not doing this and that? No, he'd be out there doing it, working hard to be where he wants to be. And that's what motivates me. It's, I want to become this person, so I've got to put the work in now to get there.
What was it like for you to quit your job and take that leap of faith into property investment full time?
I'd say the word to sum it up was exciting, probably. It got to the point in my job where I'd actually been seconded, so although I was working for the same company, they'd got me in a different position at a different office, and I really wasn't enjoying it. It was very much repetitive work, and I think looking back, I'm actually quite glad that they did do that, because I think it encouraged me more to work harder to then come out of that job. So the day I left was, it was amazing. The only thing I'd say is, it's when you go from having someone over your shoulder telling you what to do, and then suddenly you can design your own day. I think for a few weeks I almost felt a bit lost with what to do with myself. Because although I knew what I needed to do, it was like, all right, now I can actually go and do it. And it was, I mean, there's one thing thinking about it, but then once you've done it, it's
a weird feeling, like becoming your own boss, because like having as bad as jobs can be, someone telling you to do what you need to do, it's a bit of pressure left off you, right? So like when you become your own boss, you have the freedom to do things, but you've also got to figure out what to fill those gaps with.
Exactly.
But like I think when it comes to this sort of thing, like you're out in the field and every project's different, and having no two projects the same is so much better than a repetitive job.
100%. I think like today, coming here with you and doing these different things every day, it's not just turning up to the office, sat at the computer doing the same thing. It's out and about, meeting new people, and having the freedom to work really hard on days. But also, if you do want a day off and you want to spend it with family and friends and things like that, you've got the ability to do so, which I think is great.
You've obviously done some incredible projects in your career so far. What is the biggest mistake you've made, or the biggest lesson that you've learned?
I'd say it's definitely making sure you choose the right people for the project, whether that be architects, builders, or any professional that needs to be involved in any project you're doing. I think my biggest sort of mistake I made early on was getting a builder in. It was a family friend, right? So I knew him prior to working with him, but because of that, there was no professional relationship there, which meant there was no quote, there was no sort of schedule of works or program. So essentially, I just trusted him to turn up and do the work on a day rate as well, so he took the piss realistically, and the project took a lot longer than it should and cost a lot more than it should. So I think the takeaway from that was, first of all, make sure you know exactly how much it's going to cost you by obtaining quotes and stuff like that, but also qualifying the person you're using and making sure they've got the relevant experience to deliver what you want to deliver to a high standard.
Most people watching, and including myself, may have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. So I'm going to ask, what is your 5-year plan? Is it going into apartment buildings? Are you going to do schemes, developments? What is your 5-year goal?
So over the next few years, I'm really going to drill down on HMOs and continue the model that I've kind of perfected and I know what I'm doing with. So the goal this year is to add another 5 HMOs to the portfolio, and they're on average going to be about 6 beds. I've done obviously schemes like this that require a lot of planning and do take a long time, but now I do want to start focus on the smaller schemes that you can turn around quite quickly and there's not as many hoops to jump through. In terms of 5 years, I probably see myself doing pretty much the same thing, but I do eventually want to, like you say, move into bigger schemes like apartment blocks and multi-unit freeholds. I'm not really interested in the sort of buy-to-lets and standard single houses. The multi-unit blocks is where I sort of want to be.
Right, thank you so much for all of that valuable information, showing us around your project. Now, this is part 1 of a 3-part series, maybe 4 parts. What I'm going to do is next time we are going to come around during the refurb to see how it's getting on, what he's actually doing to it, and the process of what a refurb on this scale looks like. So I'm really looking forward to coming back and showing everyone what the refurb is going to look like, what you're going to do to it, and all the lessons that you've learned from here into that stage to mid-refurb.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait to show you around and show the guys at home around of what we've done with the place, what we've learned along the way, and how it's all turned out, really.
Brilliant. Thanks.
13 are going to be studio style rooms with en-suites and kitchenettes, and 4 of them are going to be double en-suite rooms. So what? I don't know.
That's the answer to my question.
Yeah, it was a good deal. What else did you ask me? So currently, of the 17 rooms, 13 are studio style rooms and 4 are...
It's a fucking nightmare.
I was trying to do maths in my head. What's 13 to get to 17? Is it 4?
2 minutes ago, I'm used to big numbers.
Can't even count now. So for this project, we actually used Angel Finance. So when we first started out, we were... I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Apologise.
I'm so sorry. So it's a win-win situation, really, because they're earning money on their investment passively, and we get to keep the project and...
That was good. That was awesome. The win-win bit was good.
I'm so sorry.
So essentially, we're offering people a win-win.
Yeah.
Like their money's working for them. They don't have to lift a finger, and we still get to keep the project at the end of it. Like,
Just put that bit
in. So using other people's money is definitely a faster way to scale your portfolio, and this is a great example of the speed of how fast you can scale your portfolio, right?
100%. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Sorry.
It's so dull, man. Like, we've got personalities.
I know. That's the thing. I could be like, let's go on. But I'm like, when I start speaking, I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
And I know everything in my head. I just don't know how to get it out there.
Yeah. Fuck it. Right. That's the video. I was just trying to think like what to say.
When it comes to sorry. I just can't speak today. Can I? I'm sorry.
I'm so sincere about it. It's like, as if I'm fucking perfect.
I know, but it's like I'm wasting your time.
No, you're not. No, this is fun. This is fun.
You're like having fun.
It's so fun. Like, mate, that's absolutely ages. So I'm talking like as if I don't talk ever. Like, as if I've never said a word. Fucking hell.
This whole roof, all the roofs in this
building.
Yeah, that's the one. So eventually this room will become 2 studios and an ensuite.
The bird just shot again.
For someone's coming upstairs. You I can remember that.
Oh god. Nearly took off, man.
I know.
Like a helicopter. Yeah, absolutely. So when it
unforeseen items or unforeseen circumstances. Yeah.
Okay, just say circumstances.
Circumstances.
Oh god. Just say circumstances, right?
Just say circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Right.
circumstance. Oh, you can't do that.
I can't do that. Right.
You want to say circumstances?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Circumstances. Fuck's sake. Because you went unforeseen like that. Okay.
Circumstances.
Oh god. We only need to get to that one word.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Come on.
This is horrible.
Ready?
Nope. Okay.
Circumstances.
Stop laughing.
I'm really trying. It's like, honest to God. You can give me 100
Look
grand
at your
right
eyes
now,
and
'cause-
just say
No, look at me. Right. Okay, go.
circumstances. That's really
That was-
poor.
yeah.
Circumstances.
Yeah.
It's not even how you say the word now.
That's
I've said it so many
well,
times.
one of them has to work. Okay. Yeah.
So it all depends on the oh my god, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just can't get it out.
Yeah.
So
Just say we look to add 5 to 10%. Fucking hell. Yeah, if we've done the area many times before with the same build team, 5% is more than enough.
you
I can remember that.
Oh god. Nearly took off, man.
I know.
Like a helicopter.
So I'd say the number one thing for me was the cash flow that HMOs. I can't speak today.